This is Open to Hope Radio, featuring Dr. Gloria Horsley and her daughter, Dr. Heidi Horsley, coming to you on behalf of the Open to Hope Foundation, dedicated to those who are looking for hope after loss. Now, here's Dr. Gloria.
Welcome to the Open to Hope Show. I'm your host, Dr. Gloria Horsley, with my daughter and co-host,
Dr. Heidi Horsley.
Well, today we're going to begin talking about suicide and military loss.
Our guest today is Don Lipstein, and he is well-known in TAP. He has not only professional experience in this today, but he also has personal experience. So Don Lipstein is a peer mentor support and training coordinator. Don joined the TAPS team in July of 2012 after receiving support due to the suicide death of his oldest son, Joshua. He plays an important role in providing hope and healing to military survivors who are just beginning their grief journey. TAPS has helped him find purpose and meaning from his own personal loss. Welcome to the show, Don.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Could you talk a little bit about Joshua? I know he had some challenges. Didn't he have a brain tumor?
Yes, he did. He served 2 tours of duty in Iraq as a Navy Riverine, Master of Arms, second class. And when he came home in 2009, he was complaining about hearing loss in his right ear, and they found a tumor which was blocking his hearing canal. It was non-cancerous, but the Navy took it out, and that kind of started his downward spiral. They took it out in December of 2009. He had the operation. He became addicted to painkillers, and in 2010 he really had a rough year. There were several good things that occurred. He got married. He had a daughter in September of 2010, but and those were the good things. But he was waiting for a medical discharge because he wasn't able to carry a weapon any longer, and he just didn't want to be sitting behind a desk for the rest of his career. And because of his addiction to painkillers, they had to postpone that discharge, which just complicated it more for him because his wife and daughter were living in Texas, and he was living in Virginia Beach, stationed there, and he wasn't going to move them because he was planning on getting out. And he went through a series of complications, and then in February of 2011, his mother passed away, and she died of cancer. And a month later, he took his own life. He shot himself.
Is that what you're seeing? I know you work as a peer support and work with the suicide. Are you seeing that people are mainly taking their life shooting themselves?
That's probably the primary way, just because they have access to the means.
You know, another thing I'm hearing here is the separation theme. He was separated from his wife and his support group.
There's no question that, if he had been in Texas, I think his situation wouldn't have seemed as bleak to him, but he was alone. He was all the people that he served with had gone. They either got out of the Navy or they had gone back to Iraq. So he had no support system where he was.
That's what I was going to say. He had multiple stressors. I think it was your report that, the whole idea of why people die by suicide is very complex. It's not just one event. There's multiple stressors. And in Joshua's life, there certainly was. He had a very serious medical situation. His mother had died in 2011. That's huge. And he was isolated from support and was waiting to be honorably discharged. There was a lot going on. And I know from a longitudinal study that I did on firefighter families after 9/11, what we found is that if there is more than 3 significant life stressors, it really causes a major crisis in people's lives, and they don't know how they're going to cope. And he certainly had more than 3.
What comes up for me on this, Don, is the potential for a huge amount of guilt for family members, feeling this person was alone and all that when, the whole circumstances. Are you seeing that with families after suicide in the military?
Absolutely, and especially initially. So I can speak on my own experience that I felt very guilty. I felt like I should have known, but I went to counseling, and I received a lot of support through TAPS, and I got a lot of education around suicide because, when you're a family member who has lost a loved one to suicide, you don't know much about suicide until it actually happens to you, and then you start to learn. And I had no idea that suicides were as high as they were in the military until it happened to my son. And then I started to learn about the guilt and the shame and the inability to even speak about suicide or to say the word. There's a stigma wrapped around mental health and suicide that I had no idea until it happened to me. And I think that's what's going on with our survivors at TAPS, that they're learning a way to be able to talk about it, to be able to think that, hey, I did everything I could, and there wasn't anything more that I could have done with the knowledge that I had. So that's what we're finding for sure.
Sometimes you do everything that you can possibly do, and at the end of the day, people still die by suicide. And the other piece is, people are very good at hiding sometimes what's going on, and kind of putting on their game face when they need to, and not really totally showing us what's going on. I mean, I'm a therapist, so you would think, as a psychologist, I would know completely what's going on with some of my clients. And there's been cases where I've been blindsided. So, I mean, if I'm even blindsided as a psychologist, I can't even imagine as just a family member. So I love the idea of getting education and getting support and having other people say, look, I've been there too, as a way to kind of alleviate some of this guilt and shame that's out there.
Yeah, there's no question that's a real important piece. Women are more apt to share their feelings where men will keep them hidden. And I talk to both men and women, and there's no question that men aren't as likely to reach out for help or assistance. There are some exceptions to the rule, but for the most part, men think that they can handle it, handle the loss better than anyone else. So they don't seek the help that women generally will seek.
And Don, my mom and I wrote a book called Real Men Do Cry about this very topic. We wrote it with a former NFL quarterback about his own experience losing his son to suicide. And like you said, the fact that he didn't feel like he could be vulnerable and get out there, and he felt vulnerable and say, look, I need help. I'm struggling with depression, which he was. My son struggled, but we didn't feel like, as guys, we could just go out there and tell people. So I love that you're bringing that out also. I think that's an important point.
Absolutely, because, Eric was the same kind of team. He was on a football team, and it's kind of like a military team, and, that kind of thing. And so there was a lot of shame around that and a lot of questioning. So if you had one piece of advice for somebody who's had a military death, what would it be?
Absolutely reach out to TAPS. I encourage counseling. That's how I found the best support was through counseling and through TAPS and just getting educated and becoming aware of what is going on and what's happening to yourself as you go through this grief journey, because it is a journey, and there's no question if you don't face it and deal with it, it's going to catch up to you eventually. And so it's best to try to face that grief, that the mourning, and all of that early on.
Thanks, Don. Joshua's memory lives on through all the work that you do. Thank you so much.
And thanks for listening to our show today. And we hope that if you have lost hope, that you'll visit us at our website, opentohope.com, listen to more shows, read articles. And if you've lost hope, lean on ours until you find your own. And God bless.
You've been listening to Open to Hope Radio, hosted by Drs. Gloria and Heidi Horsley. Like today's edition, all of our past programs are available on demand at opentohope.com, along with helpful articles, videos, resources, and links to help get you through the toughest time of your life. You can also follow us on Facebook and Twitter and sign up for our monthly newsletter. Again, that's opentohope.com. Check it out today. Then be sure to stop by next Thursday at 9 a.m. Pacific Time when we'll be posting another edition of Open to Hope Radio. Remember, others have been where you are. They made it through, and you can too, as long as you're open to hope.